Yeah,
Everybody,
you need to go back from the start, Mary. We
yeah, that's
didn't.
no, I know. I saw that. Luckily, I wasn't speaking for 10 minutes before we realized this. Okay, so welcome everybody. Today we're going to have a look at Backoffice Admin, and we're going to have a look at the modifying of meters. So first of all, the modifying of meters doesn't happen frequently, but sometimes it happens that you need to go and modify the meters, especially if a machine had a meter spike and it wasn't a rollover. Then we need to just go and correct the meters. Now, how do we know which machines we need to go and modify meters for? There's reports that we can use, and it's in the reports module. And if you go to the meters category, we can have a look at the meter validation report. You specify the gaming day, and we run the report. And I've done it so we don't have to wait. And here is my meter validation report. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that you guys can see all the things that I'm looking at. So the meter validation report shows us per gaming day, per machine, what the different meter sets were. So we show the in meter from the machine's electronic meters and what we recorded in system for the machine's handle. Then the out meter is the machine's electronic out meter and our calculated system out meter. Now, I don't, let me just explain the in and the out meter. So in meter is the moment you press the spin button on the machine to start a game. That will increment the in meter. And the out meter is if you were lucky enough to win, that win value will increment the out meter. And to calculate the win-loss, we take what was played, so the in meter, and we deduct what was won by the customer, so the out meter, to get the machine's win-loss. Now, the next part that we do is we just do a little bit of the cashless in and the cashless out meter validations as well. So here we see the AFT in or cashless in. Then we see the AFT out or the cashless out. And then we calculate the AFT or the cashless win by taking the in minus the out to give us the win. Now, normally all these values should be the same and you should not see anything in red. But sometimes you will see something in red, and don't get a fright. Let's have a look at this one. This machine 1166 is a 500 denomination, player denomination. The in meter is 14 million. It corresponds with what we've recorded as a system. But now we see something interesting here under the electronic out meter. You can never have a negative meter value. So we see here that system versus electronic for the win meter or the out meter is different. Therefore, our win-loss will also be different. Now, because we know that a machine cannot have a negative meter, we know that something happened on this machine. Now, it could be that somebody ram cleared the machine without switching it off and the meters went to zero and then back again to something else. And the nice thing is ACE on its own also records what was actually played and what was actually won. So that's why we can always compare our meters. But in this instance, we can go through our machine activity and we can go and have a look and calculate what the in and the out should be. And what we normally find is that in this situation, the system meters are correct and the system win-loss is correct. So I unfortunately don't have an example in this database of meters that needs to be corrected, but we'll pretend we need to go and correct this meter for this machine. So once you've identified the machine and the meters, you would use this report to guide you as to what the value should be. And if the system value is incorrect, you will use the electronic value to put in when we do the modification. So now we go into Backoffice Admin, and based on your authorization and access levels, some of these buttons might be grayed out. So Backoffice Admin is protected in that sense that not everyone will have access to go and modify meters and things like that. So let me take a deep breath and not rush. Now let's go to modify meters. So we choose the gaming day, and for me it was the 11th of April. Then we click on the button that says revenue to machine meter check, and it will bring up all the machines that was played that has got meters. So now we find the machine, and that was machine 1166. So we go through this list and we see there's machine 1166. And once we've clicked on it, you'll just make sure here under current machine number, it says 1166. Then we click on edit revenue meters. So what this means is we are going to change what is recorded by ACE, and that will have an effect on all your revenue reports for your compact flash, for your consolidation report. So anything to do with revenues, that's what we're going to modify. So we click on edit revenue meters, and then we see the adjust revenue meters screen pop up, and here at the bottom is the ACE revenue meters that we can adjust. So we can purely just click on edit. We go to the report and we have a look at the in meter, which is the 14609000. If we wanted to change this, we can change it. Maybe I must just show you the compact flash report for this day as well to show you that we actually are affecting our reports. Okay, here we go. Let's just zoom in a bit. Okay, so what we're going to now modify is the handle. So if we now go and change this to, let's say, 14609, 14609, and let's change the win to 500, and we click on save. I'll now run this report again to show you that we have actually now changed the handle as well as the win-loss. So if we look here on the previous one, the 500 denom was sitting at 29 million. And if we have a look, where's this one? If we look at the one that we've done after the change, you'll see our handle is now 14 million. And our gross win is now sitting at 716,000. And where's the other one? Originally, it was sitting at 1.6 million. So just always be careful when you are doing modifications to machine meters, because you are going to change your revenue reports. Do we have any questions? Let's see if there's anything in the chat. No, I don't see anything in the chat. Any questions? No questions. Okay, so modification of meters are quite simple, straightforward. You just need to run the report to tell you which machine's handle is out and incorrect, so that you can go and modify it if the need arises. Now, just to say as well that in Event Browser, all of this is recorded, so that you can do an audit on all of that. So Event Browser. Let's just do a quick query for today. And let's see what I did. Okay, so what we can see is we've started up the modules, we adjusted revenue. The machine that we adjusted the revenue for, let's just get the machine number. Okay, so it shows here in the additional information, oh, sorry, I broke it. As my permissions on my machine after reloading it last week. Murphy. I hope this happens to everyone. Sometimes your fingerprint just doesn't want to scan and you have to unplug the URU. Okay, so event date and time today. And let's have a look. Okay, so we can see the machine revenue adjusted. And in the additional information, it tells us the cashless gaming revenue for machine 1166 for gaming day 29 was adjusted. Then we get a next entry to say what was the old handle. So it was that 14,609,000. And then it shows us the total win as well. And then the new total handle and win. So if you made a mistake, it's easy to go and check what the values were so that you can change it back to what it should have been. Any questions or concerns or comments?
That's fairly straightforward.
Cool. Now, just a sneak peek, if I may, at something that we've introduced recently in Backoffice Admin is the edit player tracking, slots turnover, and win-loss. Now, hand in hand with meters is your player tracking. And if something happens weirdly, the machine has a spike and things like that, it will affect your players' win-loss or their turnover, especially if it was the out meter that had a variance. You will see that your customer's win-loss might be 49 million in the positive that is 1, where in actual fact it was only 2 million. So in the past, we had to go and do a few things in calculations via SQL and then update that player's player tracking record in the database. And that becomes quite problematic for support, that they have to go and do that over and over again. So we've now created something in the system that you as the operator can easily go and do that. And that will also speed up the support time, that you don't need to wait for somebody to go and do the calculations and do the back-end editing. So how this would work is you click on the edit player tracking, slots turnover, and win-loss, and then you'll be seeing a new window where it works in 2 steps. We're going to show you a report that would highlight possible customers that need to have, that you need to look at where their win-loss could be incorrect. So I'm going to run it for gaming day 48 and I show the report. Whoopsie, hold on one second. Naughty me, forgot to import my reports. I didn't plan on showing you guys this, so apologies for this. Alrighty, let's just go out, go back in, go 48. Then we show the report. Okay, nobody there, let's say 1 to 48. Okay, so in this report, there's 2 error checks that we do to see if there's customers that that you need to go and look at to see if validation is needed and changes need to be made to their profile. So I'm going to have a look at member number 44 on this gaming day. And this report will give you input that's needed for the next report. So let's open up the next report and have a look. So we need to have a look and tell the report now what gaming day it is that we need to look at. And this was for gaming day 34. So back in Backoffice Admin, it is going to be gaming day 34. the card number that we're looking at, we copy that and we can go and paste. Then we need to supply the machine number, which is 1207. 1207. And then the first time you run this report, for the value to ignore, you just simply put 0, and then it's going to show the report. And what that's going to do for us, it is going to highlight the values that we should look at to do recalculations. Now, how do we know what to do? How do we know where it's getting the information from? Simply, it's getting it from the machine activity report for that specific card number that that member used. And what we do is we have a look at the highest win value or the highest turnover, the bet, that might be causing the problems. And we would use this value to exclude and get new calculations. So this report gives you here at the top everything that you need to go and change that specific player tracking record for the player where the problem occurred. So we've highlighted number 1 is the tracking daily ID that you'll need, then the turnover, and then the last part is the win-loss to correct. At the moment it's 0 because we just wanted to see which value we must go and ignore. So for this one, I'm going to ignore this 53 or 53, whatever that value is. Sorry, it's 532925. So I've copied that value, go back to Backoffice admin, and I change this value to ignore, and I make that the value from the report that we need. Then we're going to run the report again. And you'll see that it calculates what the win-loss should be for the customer with that value excluded. Now we can go and do the actual correction. So tracking daily ID, we copy that. We go and put that in there. Then the turnover that we calculated, we go back to Backoffice admin and go and remove all the commas and the correct win-loss that we need to put in, and update the player tracking values. Now, once that is done, we can go and run our player tracking report, the validation one, and we'll see that member 44 for gaming day 34 will be removed. So I'll just run the report again from here. It was gaming day 34, member 44. And that member is no longer there. So I think this is something nice that you guys can be looking forward to when we upgrade you guys. Any questions, anything else in Backoffice admin that you want me to quickly run through?
Question from my side, and
Yes.
I just see it's got the same question. Is this in the next version to be released?
This would be in one of the next versions to be released. We actually finished that last sprint. So in release 32.5.
Okay, so it won't be in the very next one that we get, which has all the social distancing stuff in it.
It will also be in there. Currently, we're working on release 32.6 with the social distancing. So once you have that version, this is included.
Okay. So so that's 32.6, and what was this one originally? 35 what?
This was implemented in 32.5.
Ah, okay.
So it's just the previous one. So
Right.
we're actually kind of very busy doing some nice things that will help the support guys as well, to do with the player tracking, the meters and things like that. And then just a quick, the social distancing stuff is going very well, and we've tested it, and hopefully when we can upgrade you guys can use it without any issues. Any questions? I think this session was very quick. Record time, 23 minutes.
Yeah, no, look, it's all nice and easy. It's nice to see that stuff there. Just having those tools, you can do it in-house
Yes.
without always having to send it I think the trick is going to be ensuring that the people in-house are properly trained on it.
Yes. What we do is we've got our training portal, and this would be available one of these days as one of the lessons in there on how to do that, like what I've described now and showed you. And also for our reviews, we do some nice videos that we can also make available to make sure that the staff is trained and they understand how it works.
Cool.
But yeah, normally when the big upgrades like this happens, we make sure that we sit down with the staff and make sure that they understand how to use it, why to use it, when to use it, and things like that.
Excellent. Yeah, I see Ian had the same question as me, but he's also saying maybe next week we do a session on ACE utility.
Oh, the ACE utility. Okay, cool. That's a very easy peasy lemon squeezy. So
Let's do that one. We've got 25 minutes.
Oh, we've got time. Alrighty. So the ACE utility is used by whoever is doing upgrades to the system. So, but it's also used for some other things. Just touch on the social distancing we're working on. Okay, so I'll also mention that. Okay, let's quickly do ACE utility. So ACE utility has got two parts of it. The one is the task to upgrade and patch the databases, and then it's got an option for checks. So this is more a support type of thing where we would, as the distributors, go in and make sure that your SQL Server is correct and that the PCs where the ACE software is running on, that we can check and make sure that regional settings and things like that are correct. So I'm quickly going to just select all the tasks under the checks. So we can check certain SQL things. I'm not going to bore you with the details of that, but it's things that is required to make sure that the database is sound and the SQL Server installation is sound, and that firewalls are disabled and that machine details are completed and things like that. So I am now, once I've selected something, it will tell me here at the bottom what parameters is needed for it to run. So if you see here, it says database connection, and then there's a button with 3 dots. So we click on the 3 dots, we specify the server. Then we have to supply the database username and password that we're going to use to run it, and that's normally not made available to everyone. And then we choose the database, for instance, and then we run the checks. So now as the checks are run, it will give us a state if it's successful or if it failed. And if there's something, it will give us more details. Now, for instance, here, SQL product version is unknown because I'm using the latest SQL 2019. And we suggest or advise not to use it yet because it's still very brand new. SQL trace flags, also, there's certain things in SQL that we need to enable and check and things like that. So it's just a few things. Just make sure that we know what's going on. So if we're having weird issues on the floor with the database, we can quickly check and see for the normal culprits if they are causing the problem or not.
Okay, so these are checklists that you set up and run.
Yes. And it's for instance, we know that the firewall can cause issues with the database and connecting the clients and the GFSs and things. So we run this to quickly see if that is maybe a cause of the problem that we're experiencing, or encryptions and things like that. So this is a support task that we normally do. And then on the tasks itself, I'll run through it quickly. You can create a blank ACE database. We create the DB users that's used by ACE. We patch the database to the specific level when we do your upgrade. So when we tick it, now you see there's a new parameter, patch level. I want to patch to the latest that you are going to get. Then linking the DB users is SQL stuff that we have to do so everything can work nicely. Then the encryption part is to make sure that our values and stuff for cash and for vouchers and everything, all of that is encrypted. So anything value-wise is encrypted. Then we check some of the SQL stuff to make sure our DLLs and things are registered. We create the end of day job if it's a new database. If the user account permission is enabled, we also have problems with that where things don't run as administrator. So we have a check or a task that can go and disable that. And then apply DB data. Anytime that you do an upgrade, you always have to apply the DB data, especially if there was changes made, new columns added to tables, if we made changes to language files. So by default, when you do an upgrade, you always patch and you always apply the DB data. Now, the next part is to remove currently installed reports. So we normally use this when we upgrade from a release 27 to a release 31, for instance, which will remove all the reports in the database. Because when we jumped from, or when we moved from the older release, there's a lot of reports that was removed and combined into other reports. So if the report was there and you didn't remove it, the report won't run anymore. So we've got 10 minutes left. And then the next one, import ACE reports. So when we select this, we tell it where to go and look for the report, and it will automatically import and update any of the existing reports in the database and insert new reports if there was new reports in a release. Now, sometimes you'll also have a situation where a custom report gets made for you or a report fix. Then the support guys will normally go and save it in a special folder and just go and browse to where that folder is that contains the reports and upload them, and it will overwrite whatever is in the system. And that was the ACE utility.
Short and to the point.
Yeah, boy. Now, for Sean, for the social distancing, I know a notification might have gone out to you guys about what we implemented and things like that. So I might, what do you call it? I don't know if I'm going to be in trouble for telling you guys this, but the nice thing, what we've got is in system, there's a flag that you set that it's a global flag that cleaning is required. So what that means is when a customer finishes playing, so cash out, the panel will go into a state where it says call attendant, cleaning required, and it will flash, so it will go dark and bright, displaying that message. Then it will also beep every 30 seconds, so you can hear that there's a machine that needs to be cleaned and sanitized. Then you go to the machine, you do your cleaning and sanitizing, you put in your maintenance card, and then it will prompt you to enable the machine again. So you can say enable the machine, and then the machine is playable. But now there's a few other options that we've got. In Machine Manager, you can now, or let me just show you while I'm talking through this. In Machine Manager, you'll have the option to go and change the default state of a slot machine. So you can say that by default, all your slot machines are, oh, sorry, I broke something. Okay, so by default, you can set that all your machines are disabled. Then when your customers come in, you can then escort them to a machine and enable that machine for them to play. Then as soon as they cash out, cleaning is required. And then once you've done that and you said cleaning is done, the machine will go back to its disabled state. So the nice thing with this is if a husband and wife was playing together, you don't want, and they said, okay, we want to play next to each other. You can then go and enable the machine next to the one, and they can play. And as soon as you cash out, the machine needs to be cleaned. Any questions?
Yeah, hopefully you guys all received the email notification that went out yesterday with those updates. If anybody didn't, you should all be on the mailing list, but let me know, and also just double check in your junk mail folder because it's coming from info@cyrus.com, so it might just be coming from an address that you don't recognize.
And the nice thing, what I've thought about doing is do a report as well to show which machines are in a cleaning state that's not been cleaned yet and which machines are in a disabled state. It's a nice thing if you guys can tell me yay or nay, then I'll make sure that that report is in there so that you don't need to run Event Browser to see if the machine state was updated from cleaning to disabled or to enabled. So what's the vote? You want to report?
I'm sure that's going to be a yes.
Okay, everyone is yes. Okay.
Good idea.
that makes it easier to see, okay, these machines were not cleaned yet. Okay, make sure that they go and clean it. And then one other thing is, even when we go out of this COVID situation where you don't need to clean the machines anymore, and we switch off that setting and system, you can still go and use your maintenance card and reserve that a specific machine for a customer if you so wish, by just disabling the machine so nobody else can play it. So there's functionality that we can use for longer than just this COVID situation.
Yeah, we wanted to try and keep it flexible so that you guys aren't, if you've had to disable every other machine, for example, but there's a row of machines which are empty and a customer wants to play a particular game, you can go and override that disable so they can play their game and then disable the surrounding machines next to that one. So we're trying to keep it as flexible as possible for you.
Grant, is it flexible enough so that you can say, well, we're going to clean after every third card removal? I mean, ideally after everyone, but it might just overwhelm the whole, the whole hall, especially as sort of things move on into the future.
Unfortunately,
I think that's a good point, DJ. At the moment, we've been basing it around the sort of urgent cleaning after every session, after every cash out, but maybe we can consider making that a bit more flexible for you guys, so you can determine perhaps to make that a bit more manageable, especially if you're running lighter staff, etc.
So I would say give it a shot and see what it is, what else we could do to assist. Because now I think now that this is all implemented, I think it's going to help a lot.
Yeah, and we've got some, as Marie mentioned, we've got some more updates coming as well. We just, we're building them through and making sure they go through all the testing processes. So the first batch is available from the 15th, and then the next batch will be available towards the end of the month, which will be some more automated machine disabling on card insert, etc.
So yeah, guys, that's I say. What is the next week's topic again? Okay, so we've already quickly covered the ACE utility. Grant, do you have any suggestions, or anybody else have any suggestions for me for next week?
If anyone's got anything they particularly want to look at next week, otherwise we'll have a discussion after this, and we'll come up with a couple of options for you. Just trying to think of things which are going to be particularly useful as you guys are hopefully reopening or have already reopened and need to sort of incentivizing people to come back in and those kind of promotional stuff. So we could always look through that again.
Yeah.
Or look at some other aspects, maybe from a sort of technical support side, if there'd be any use for that.
What we could do as well, next week I could show the videos of how the social distancing implementation works.
Great idea, yeah.
So that you can see it live in action. I think maybe that's a good idea. And then we can touch more on some of the promotions with tables, if anyone missed that and wanted us to go through that again, because it's now being implemented for pit control as well.
I was going to say, why not go over pit pit control, table management, promotions and tables, that sort of thing.
Okay, we can do that as well. Cool, yes, because I mentioned last time that we're doing the earning potential for tables. So now we've implemented for pit control as well. So let's have a quick vote. Do we do the promotions with tables next week, or do we do the show and tell about the actual showing the videos of how it was actually implemented?
Show and tell.
Okay, show and tell. Alrighty, so next week is the show and tell, and I'll have some of those videos available also after we've done the recording, so that you can have a look at that as well.
Alrighty.
Great stuff. Thanks everyone for your time, and we'll catch up next week. And just before we close this call, just make sure you take that link that I've shared, because that one will be a recurring one until July. So you don't need to worry about clicking in mailing lists and things like that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll be keeping it same time every Wednesday.
Same time, same place.
Don't move.
No, I won't move. Thank you guys, and have a great
Thank you, Marie.
evening, morning, Ciao, guys.
You
That's good.
too.
Thanks very
Take
much.
care.
Yeah.
You too.
Cheers,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.